You make $0 off the 99% of people that no-show your webinar. Here's how you turn that into 20% more revenue without spending another dollar. My name is Michael and I've been advertising for almost a decade. This channel is dedicated to helping you learn how to make more money from your webinars and live virtual events. And if you're new here and you benefit from the content and you're making more money, like and subscribe. Let's get into it. Now, you know that you're probably getting anywhere between 20-25% show rate. That means that 80 to 85% of the people aren't showing up. You can keep going out there and spending more money and more money and more money, but 80% of them aren't gonna show up. So what do you do? I found that there are 3 things that most people are doing, and number 3 is what we are doing now to generate that extra revenue. Number 1, the bucket is a replay plus your offer, right? So at the end of your webinar, you're offering something, whether that's a call, whether that's direct to cart. You're typically sending people to a sequence where you're gonna be giving the replay, but you're also hammering them with that offer. Now, the problem with these, they usually end up really cold. Now, this isn't necessarily a problem, but your salespeople will absolutely hate it. They will show up to that sales call and your salesperson's gonna do somewhat of a webinar to try to warm that person up on the sales call. The new age of closers, they're what we call fat cat closers. And so they literally just want people to show up with a credit card in their hand. So they're probably not gonna like this unless you have some badass closers. I don't recommend doing any of the other strategies. I recommend doing this one if you only do webinars that are like once a month, once every couple months. The reason is because if you're only doing webinars that are like once a month, it doesn't make sense to send them through a different sequence to try to warm them up again. You want them to just like book calls, right? We want to send them the offer because you don't do webinars very often, right? So if you're doing this like 1x time a month, then this is something that you probably want to set up, right? Now, the second thing you can set up, and what I've had a lot of clients ask me to set up, and we've tested this numerous times, is just a replay sequence. Meaning that your goal with this sequence is just to get these people to watch the replay. So you're trying to force them to watch the replay to then book a call, right? You know, basically going through the same concept of going through a webinar, right? The problem with this sequence is, number 1, people do not watch replays. They don't watch replays. You will get a very small percentage, maybe 5%-ish of people that will start watching the replay, but no one technically finishes and goes through a replay the same way they would with a live webinar, right? No one really watches it the way that you need. If somebody does watch the replay, they're not typically watching it all the way through, right? Most of them are either watching the very beginning of it, then exiting out, or they're skipping through all the pieces, right? Like, how often do you watch something that was a live event or live training and you actually sat there the whole time and just watched it, right? A lot of people will just skip through it to the parts that they want to hear, which doesn't really give you the same effect as what you really want on a webinar. The purpose of a webinar is to get somebody warmed up enough so that they're ready to make a decision and actually buy from you, right? And so I wouldn't recommend sending a replay sequence. This is the one that I actually don't like the most. I prefer this front one or the third one that we're doing, which is the one that actually drives the most revenue. Number 3 is what we call a re-invite sequence. What a re-invite sequence is essentially like we're re-inviting somebody to the following webinar. The reason this works so well is because we structure it in a way where we're just basically signing them up for the next webinar. Like, we're not giving them an option to sign up. We're basically saying, we don't really care that you missed the webinar, it's all good, but we're just gonna sign you up for the next one. Don't worry, it's all good, right? And so the way that we typically are doing this is once somebody no-shows, we have them going through a sequence. And in that sequence, there's like branches, right? So if the person showed, we send them through this branch. If they no-showed, they go through this. And what we do is the next day, we've already rolled this webinar over to the next week. And then what we'll do is we'll send a text message, and we like to actually say something along the lines of, we like people that stick to their commitments, but I'll make an exception, right? So something where they can feel like, man, I no-showed this, right? So they show up the next time. We say, I don't normally do this, but next Tuesday, I'm hosting the webinar again. I'm just gonna add you to the invite. Don't worry, nothing you need to do on your end. So you almost make it sound like a benefit, the reason that we're adding them to the next week, right? Because what you don't want to do is be like, yeah, I'm gonna add you to the next week if that's okay, right? They'd be like, no, dude, don't send me any more messages. So let's say, for example, every webinar, we get 1,000 people. Only 200 show. That means that there's 800 more people that aren't showing up to your webinar. Now we're gonna re-invite those people, right? Plus, we're gonna get another 1,000. So now we're gonna have 1,800 people in our sequence. You're not gonna get all of this 800 to show up because obviously they're compulsive no-showers. Like, they already no-showed once, there's a high likelihood that they're not gonna show up a second time. But what you will get is you'll add an extra, probably about 10% of the people to show back up, which means that out of that 800, you're gonna add an extra 80 people that show up to the webinar. And so with this being at, let's say, the new 1,000, You're gonna get 80 from the old one, plus you're going to get another 200, which will add to 80. 280 people, which almost brings you an extra 30-ish% show rate. So you will bump your show rate by 30%. And you already paid for these people. You don't have to pay for them again, right? Now, what this will end up doing is it will equal close to 20% more booked calls and 20% more revenue. This is the third thing that we do. Now there's two parts to this. Number one is actually just re-inviting these people and being like, hey dude, we do weekly webinars. You're coming to the next one no matter what, right? The second thing that we actually do with this, so this is part two. If you don't do the same webinar every single week and you have a bunch of different webinars, I'll give you an example. We have a client who does anywhere between 2 to 3 different webinars every week. Like he'll do one topic one day, different topic the next day, and sometimes a third topic, right? And if we aren't rolling everybody into like the same topic every single week, what we do is instead, we actually invite them to a page, right? So we'll invite them to like an event page. We'll actually add all of the events into one single page. So instead of saying, hey, we're just gonna add you to the invite, you can't add somebody to an invite of a different webinar, right? So they showed up for one webinar and then you're sending them there for another topic. It's not gonna make any sense. So what we do is we'll actually send them to this event page where we have all of our upcoming events listed. This requires them to sign up for one of these. But this method right here works really well if you've got a lot of different types of events that are going on, or let's say you have a 2-day event, you have a 1-day event, right? Like this is how you can actually get people just going through this cycle and adding to multiple events. We find that people will go to one event, buy the product, and then a month later, they will show up to another event and buy again, right? That means that all of these people are still housed in the same type of business or offer that we're offering. They just want different things, right? And so this actually allows you to then invite them to more products. Maybe they wanted to show up to this one, but they didn't really like it as much, but they realized that you have 3 different events, and those 3 different events are what they're more interested in, right? And so we'll just add them to all of the events and they can go sign up for whatever they want. Now, this method isn't necessarily going to get you that 20% bump immediately, but it'll get you a long-term 20%, 30% bump because you're just gonna keep re-inviting people to more events. You don't need to throw away these leads. You don't need to force them to try to book calls. The goal is really to get them to stay engaged with you. We're in an age where no one trusts anybody, and strategies like this, where you can re-invite them and get them to watch more of your content, is going to drive more revenue for your business. So recap, option A is the re-invite sequence. This is where you're just literally adding them to the next webinar. They're gonna get blasted with SMS and email. This is where you get that almost immediate 20% bump. Option B is the events page. This one will give you that 20%, even higher than that, but it's a longer term play. This is one where you're keeping them in your ecosystem, right? So this one's a 20% bump, except this is a longer time horizon where they may end up signing up a couple months down the line. Both of these will produce more revenue because at the end of the day, you wanna make more money without spending more. Every lead is gonna cost you money. So how do we maximize that? How do we get you guys more money? So if you're somebody, coach, consultant, maybe even a marketer that runs webinars, take this, try it with your clients, try it in your business. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe again, and we'll be back for the next one.